London, 1915. An empire felt safe, ruling the seas. But a new, ghostly weapon began to appear in the sky. It floated silently through the darkness, unlike any army. And when the bombs started falling, Britain faced a terrifying realization. The battlefield had finally come home. This is the story of the Zeppelin terror of World War I. It was the first time civilians became targets from the air. At the start of the 20th century, Zeppelins seemed like pure progress. Invented by Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin, these massive airships were engineering wonders. Over 600 feet long, they could travel vast distances through the air. Before the war, Zeppelins offered luxury, like floating palaces for passengers. Newspapers hailed them as the future of travel, drawing crowds. Yet, World War I transformed them into weapons, and Germany saw their potential. They could strike directly at enemy cities, something armies couldn't do. Traditional wars kept civilians safe on battlefields far away. But airships changed everything. Suddenly, no city felt truly secure. In January 1915, Germany launched its first Zeppelin raid on Britain. Initially targeting coastal towns, they soon aimed for something more symbolic. London, the British capital, the empire's heart, was a huge city. Germany believed terror bombing could crush British morale. The plan was simple. If civilians got scared, if homes burned, Britain might quit the war. On the night of May 31, 1915, London endured its first major Zeppelin attack. As darkness fell, giant airships crossed the English Channel under night's cover. The people below had almost no warning at all. There were no radars, no real defenses, no experience with air warfare. Most Londoners never imagined an attack from above. Then the explosions began violently. Bombs crashed into homes and busy streets everywhere. Glass shattered across whole neighborhoods completely. Fires quickly spread through the darkness rapidly. Panic swept through the entire city. For the first time in modern British history, civilians faced direct aerial attack. The psychological effect of the Zeppelin raids was immense. The airships often arrived at night while the city slept soundly. People spoke of hearing engines in the fog before seeing street explosions. Children woke to falling ceilings from above. Families ran into streets in their nightclothes in fear. Entire neighborhoods hid in basements or underground stations for safety. The raids created a unique kind of dread. Unlike soldiers, civilians had no control over their own survival. Death could arrive silently from darkness at any given moment. British newspapers quickly labeled Zeppelins as symbols of terror. Some described them as terrifying monsters. Others called them baby killers after women and children died. Public anger toward Germany grew, but fear spread just as fast. Each night, Londoners scanned the skies for any sign of another raid. Police rode through streets, warning citizens to find cover. Searchlights swept the clouds constantly. Air raid sirens echoed throughout the entire city. Underground, thousands crowded tube stations, hoping the earth protected them. Britain desperately tried to defend itself, but stopping Zeppelins was tough. The airships flew too high for many early aircraft to reach. At night, pilots struggled to even locate them. Even when fighters reached them, bullets often failed to destroy them. Zeppelins were huge, with many gas chambers inside. Small bullet holes caused little immediate damage to them. Meanwhile, the airships kept dropping bombs on British cities relentlessly. By 1915 and 1916, the raids grew larger and more deadly indeed. One attack in September 1915 caused great destruction in central London. Bombs hit both residential areas and financial districts alike. The message was clear: nobody was safe any longer. The British government imposed blackouts and added anti-aircraft guns. Street lights were extinguished at night start. Windows were covered tightly. Searchlights constantly scanned for incoming airships overhead. But Britain needed something much more powerful. It required a way to destroy Zeppelins permanently. Eventually, British engineers found the airship's biggest vulnerability: hydrogen gas. The same gas that let Zeppelins float also made them highly flammable. New incendiary bullets were created specifically to ignite internal hydrogen. And in September 1916, Britain finally retaliated effectively. On the night of September 2nd, German Zeppelins again crossed England's skies. British pilot William Leaf Robinson climbed into the darkness to intercept one. Flying at night in 1916 was already extremely dangerous. Pilots had basic instruments and poor visibility conditions. But Robinson kept climbing until he spotted the massive shape above him. He attacked using incendiary ammunition loaded. First, nothing seemed to happen at all. Then, suddenly, flames erupted across the entire airship. The hydrogen ignited instantly, causing a huge explosion. Within seconds, the Zeppelin became a giant fireball in the night sky. Witnesses across England watched in shock as the burning giant crashed down. For Britain, it was an unforgettable moment of victory. The terror weapon that seemed unstoppable had finally been defeated. Crowds celebrated in the streets with joy. Robinson became a national hero that night. And Germany realized the age of the Zeppelin was truly ending. After 1916, Zeppelin raids grew far more dangerous for German crews. British defenses improved very rapidly. Searchlights tracked the airships more effectively now. Anti-aircraft guns became significantly more accurate. Fighter pilots gained crucial experience intercepting night raids. To survive, Zeppelins were forced to fly even higher. But this extreme altitude created terrible new conditions. Tax. To get by, airships had to go much higher up. Yet, the extreme heights brought about awful conditions within the airships. The cold fell well beneath freezing. Those on board fought to get enough oxygen to breathe. The engines grew unpredictable in the rarefied atmosphere. And even with all these hardships, the attacks achieved little in terms of military gains. The bombings scared civilians deeply, yet they did not break British spirits. Rather, public outrage strengthened Britain's resolve to keep fighting. Slowly, Germany moved away from dirigibles and started using large bomber planes, which were quicker and more difficult to shoot down. These enormous airships, once a symbol of aviation's future, were becoming outdated. When World War I concluded, the Zeppelin terror raids had essentially failed, but their lasting influence on history was significant. The Zeppelin assaults altered the nature of warfare permanently. For the very first time, non-combatants far from the battlegrounds faced consistent air attacks. These strikes introduced a frightening new reality. Contemporary warfare no longer had distinct battlefronts. Industrial sites, residences, educational buildings, and entire urban areas could now be targeted. 20 years later, during World War II, London would again face destructive aerial assaults throughout the Blitz. However, the groundwork for that approach was laid during World War I, marked by the slow silhouette of Zeppelins drifting across the nighttime sky. The massive airships themselves ultimately ceased to be used in combat. Nevertheless, the dread they instilled persisted, since once humans discovered how to wage war from the air, there was no turning back.